Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reasoned Choice Media.
Welcome home, y'all. Welcome home. We created this show to create a safe space, and that's so important as we navigate this political landscape, but also our personal landscape as well. So this is why we say welcome home at the beginning of every show and at the end of every show. We want you all to feel welcome home. So it's been 59 full episodes.
60 count today.
60. That's
true. What about
true.
the MiniPods? Throw those in there.
The MiniPods. I hope y'all are listening to those. They drop every Monday, by the way. MiniPods.
91, they say.
And we did our live shows. So we did 13 live shows, 8 cities: Miami, New Orleans, Chi-Town, the D-Silla, DC, the Detroit, I call it. Y'all don't like me saying that though. Detroit, the ATL, Philadelphia, and there was some city, I can't even remember it. I don't even think it counts.
Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah, Tallahassee.
Tally-ho.
I was just trying to troll Andrew. Anyway, but we began by telling our stories, our truths. We began with testimony. So a lot of us, you guys have seen all of us on the different networks. We each come from a different background and came together here because we, like you, noticed a dearth of voices and expertise that dishonored our truth. Still, so often what people talk about on these networks centers the comfort of white people, not just white people, but conservative white people. So we wanted to create a space for everyone where we could center our lived experience. And it's really been a delight to go through all this. We talked about the outgoing administration. We shuddered at speaking about the incoming administration. We caught a lot of flack from folks. And listen, that's a part of it. Some of y'all disagree with us and you weighed in and told us as much. But we also got some of y'all's comments from our Amen Corner, which we greatly appreciate that. Angela likes to say that she and I got in our first fight, but I have to tell y'all it's our second.
What was the first one?
About the guy. I have to remind you that all the time when we were me, you, and Sunny, we were at lunch. It's this raggedy dude.
That was not a real argument.
I wanted you to come somewhere and you were like, I'm not coming, and you left. But anyway.
But I didn't storm off.
You didn't, but you were escalated. And it don't matter.
I was feeling protective of you.
I know.
That time I was mad at you.
Okay.
So that felt like my first argument.
I wish you were mad that time and had come with me.
And pulled you off that damn ledge.
And pulled me out, honey. Pulled me out. It's been a year of reflection on the mistakes we made,
yes,
okay?
Indeed.
The mistakes that will remain nameless. Anyway, beep, sorry. Anywho,
Andrew, Tiff and I got into our first argument. She said it's our second. I said it's our first. And of our nearly 20-year friendship, Andrew and I got in our 200th.
Did
y'all ever fight?
600, I don't know.
Did y'all fight? Andrew and Tiff,
did y'all fight? I don't feel like I fought anybody.
Other than the Karens and the Kateys, did y'all fight?
I didn't fight anybody.
Okay.
I just, stood my ground
on
occasion.
Well, stand it then.
That's
but we
the law in Florida.
Right. It's a dangerous one, however.
Yeah. The incoming president, we went through all of his 91 criminal charges. And we talked about the bleach blonde, bad built state of our union. We even got into the Kendrick Drake beef. Which has since taken even more turns. I mean, I didn't know that you could lose a rap beef so hard, so many times. Yes. But you're taking another L. Yeah. You still losing. Slim, just go home, back to your corner. That's how it works. And then remember...
Brody.
What is it?
I just said Brody.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about reparations, banning TikTok. We talked about legalizing weed, which I'm not really familiar with. I'm indifferent on, but I know that's something that's important to
some of
you
us.
You guys. Anyway, well, it's legal in my house, so it don't matter.
I see.
Castle doctrine.
I really
redefined.
I liked our conversation on fatherhood, Black fathers, and why they matter. But also all your listener questions, your comments. We really appreciated. One of my favorite shows was the show that we did in Miami with Kim Blackwell at that conference. And what made it so amazing were the women in the audience. It was a carefully curated group of people who were insightful and leaders and on the front lines in the private sector and the public public sector. Our good sister, Joteka Edie, who we're thinking about this holiday season, was with us. So just an amazing time. We got into our own rat beefs at the DNC. No need to revisit that, but you can check out our MiniPod on what happened at the DNC.
Oh, Lord.
Exactly. We did. This is Angela's baby. She just really wanted to do the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference. A lot of you guys colloquially call it CBC Week. But we were able to broadcast live from there. That was the last time they saw us in glam, I think, in this level of glam.
Well,
yes.
we sorry we deprived y'all.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be foolish to just randomly do a black tie show like for no reason? Like
I
every
gotta
3
find
months?
a sequin.
Yes.
Accent
You can have it
of
straight
some
down
sort.
the side.
Accent
A
of
sequin
some
tie.
sort.
Lapel.
Something.
Or you can have maybe
not the
Roland
lapel.
could do a pocket square with
We
some
ain't doing,
sequins on there.
What's his name?
Roland got some feathers ones that look like some draws for the pocket square.
And we're not talking about Roland Martin, of course, but we're just
Yes,
talking.
we are. Roro, you be having some crazy pocket
We
squares.
love Roro. Roro
Yes.
saved us at the DNC too.
Yeah,
So
he did.
shout out to
When I had no show.
Roro.
He'll
Thank you,
never
Ro.
let us forget it neither, but we love him.
Exactly.
We love you, Ro.
But one thing is for sure, speaking of Roro, because he's a part of our community, there would be no us without you. There will be no us without community, connection, coalition. We are as different as the zip codes we live in, from the nation's capital to the dirty South to what Angela called the best coast.
The West,
and
the
so,
West.
yes. And everything in between. We welcome you all in this space. So we said goodbye to 2024. And as we usher in 2025, we invite you, our Native Land Pod family, to journey with us through our inaugural year, which would have meant nothing without each of you. We want to
like
take
an
a
Andrew
moment to
pronunciation.
thank you.
Inaugural.
Our inaugural year.
The whole experience has been the one thing I didn't want, but badly needed. And it takes upon reflection to really consider that I could have stayed a hermit and inside my own space and been just fine, I think, until you get exposed to the fact that, no, I actually love people. I love my fam. I love my community. And Native Land Pod, I think, did that for me. And in finality, there would not have been a show without all of you. We couldn't be what we needed to be, but for you, including those of you who disagreed. In fact, in some ways, especially those of you who disagreed on various perspectives. You kept it, classy. You kept it real in your own ways. And you policed each other when it was necessary. And so for that, I just want to extend a heartfelt Native Land Pod thank you to every single one of you who help to own and create and continue to populate this space. Happy New Year.
So I want to thank iHeart, Conal, Will, and Carrie. Conal, Will, and Carrie. Conal and I have a private inside joke where I call him Conal. Okay. He doesn't know about it, but he just found out about it. Thank you, Conal. And thank you to the Podfather, Chris Morrow, and Leonard, who you guys know as Charlemagne the God, to our production team, Lauren, Nick, and Lolo, to our video production team, Mark, Ina, and Dylan, who have held us down with all our last minute requests and traveling. So shout out to you guys. Our social media crew, Camera, Ange, and Chloe.
Or Ange.
Well, I call her Ange.
And she doesn't know yet, but now you do, Ange.
It's my take on Strange because she's always so fly and fash. But Ange, our Breakfast Club fam for collabing with us, and all the guests and hosts and everybody who's come on and everyone who has worked on the show in every city. For every live show and the places we had to go along the way. All the friends we made along the way.
Yes.
So we love you all. We thank you and welcome home, y'all.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we asked y'all to let us know what your favorite episodes were from this last year. We can't play them all for you now, but please make sure you check the episode description for the full list of best of episodes selected by you. So as we reflect on where we've been this year as the Native Land Pod, we also are getting ready to plan for a really robust, very full,
exhausting,
full of 2025. But we can't do that without reflecting back on what has been a very, very eventful year with this podcast. So let's take a look at some of our best moments.
I went into the most Republican part of Florida. I went to the most Republican precinct in the entire country twice, 3 times on the campaign trail. Not because I thought I was going to convert the people living in that ultra right-wing place.
You did, and what about the older people in the home?
It's because in all those places, there are people who can still relate to our experience, what we're trying to do, our story, and even if they don't agree, hook, line, sinker on every single major issue I want to move forward, they had enough to believe that I believed in it, and so they went and they casted a ballot for me.
I think it's fine for him to go
doesn't make
visit.
sense.
Don't spend no ad money over there.
It doesn't make sense for me to walk right past them casting the aspersion that everybody who lives in that area believes that way, and that's why I shouldn't compete.
I'm not saying that
I
either.
know that's not what you're saying.
I'm talking about Katie.
Katie.
Woo!
Yeah.
Well,
now we agree. Now we all three of us agree.
Okay.
We've gotten to agreement. On that note.
Oh my God.
Andrew.
That was the worst.
No, it's not. It was the best.
But you know, it's funny because
Katie's exhausting.
Yes.
I ain't even met her.
exhausting.
I ain't even met her.
Well,
She's
It was
exhausting.
another
Not our Katie,
moment
not
when
my
we were
Katie.
in Atlanta and Kim Blackwell was talking about
The
Kateys.
Kateys.
Yes,
Yeah.
and me and Angela instinctively, as soon as she said white women, we were both like,
Oh, Andrew,
to our
sympathizer.
Andrew. Yes,
Yeah.
our
No,
white
it's just
women
like-
we
sympathizer.
literally like, you need to talk to Andrew.
Yeah, I'm just glad she said it. I wasn't on an island alone. Kim
it's a
Blackwell
lot of people
agrees.
feel
No,
that
a
way.
lot of people, they were dragging both of us in the comments about it.
I didn't.
I'm going to stick by Katrina, as I said in that clip.
Don't
Yeah.
put me on the opposite side of Katrina. I'm
no,
not on the
because you
opposite
get
side
your
of Katrina.
ass whooped. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
You got
You got
Katrina's
a
at
house full.
home.
I love Katrina.
Yeah, you're
Period.
surrounded by
I'm just saying, there's some room for Katie.
You
Jay,
run for
that means
office,
you. He's not
and
talking
you
about another woman
understood
named
that
Katrina,
you
by
had
the way.
to,
No, the one I live with.
coalition build. I think that's the point you were making.
Yeah, to win.
And honestly, I mean, it was a funny moment, but I think that there are conversations to have around that.
Yeah.
I think, I don't want to speak for Angela, but I think what we feel is that's not our ministry.
I hear you.
That's somebody else's ministry. And I would love to see white women take up the ministry to talk to their own people.
Yes.
And coalesce, like, I'm not here to save you. You know, like, you benefit from me saving myself. I ain't out here trying to save you. Y'all
I
talk
ain't
to
trying
each
to
other.
save anybody. I do want our people to win, and I want our policies to prevail. And I just think, part of 2025, I think I said this in the last show, for me is going to be the listening part and how we cultivate a space where we hear a lot more of what's happening so that we're not so shocked by these consequential outcomes.
Do you all think that you've pivoted much from that moment?
No.
Andrew, what about you?
No.
I think I'm worse. Like, now I'm like double,
Like,
extra,
further
triple
sunken.
F you. And furthermore, like, don't invite me. There were so many women after the election, black women who were talking about being invited to these convenings
Y'all got
to
it.
talk to I'm not going.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Talk to each other.
Please.
Talk to each
Please.
other.
Yeah.
We
So
did
I'm
what we
extra,
had to do.
I'm just
We
worried
are part
about
of the
what's being said when
92%.
they are talking to each other, which is why I'm thinking somebody needs to be in the space
I get it.
to recover it. It doesn't have to be.
The 48% need to talk to the 52%.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, I don't understand their sensibilities. You know how there are things in our community that are unspoken but understood.
Yes.
If we could have me and Angela could have a whole conversation right now and not say a word.
Sure.
Yep.
If somebody walked in this room, we could definitely, like, she know what I'm saying. I know what she's
That's
saying.
what happened at the DNC.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, there's that
Exactly.
We should
Speaking
go to that.
of-
Do we
I
have
feel
it?
like they got their own language.
We got that. It's out of order now, Nick, but it goes with the flow.
And receive Doug Emhoff, because the first time Vice President, then Senator Harris ran, there were people, blah, boo. Anyway, I see.
Even if they don't,
I'm just
I
throwing
believe
shade to
that they
somebody who was for the birthday.
receive. I believe that black men receive her
I am so
enough.
confused.
You know how sometimes
Who
in
is
your
it?
y'all, we gonna be here.
Okay.
Child, nothing. She's
Okay.
a Floridian. Let's move on.
Okay.
What I'm saying is
also
I
a
think
turn
about
coat.
being on the
anyway,
other
you
side
know
of black
what?
women.
you send me
Listen, we
here?
believe.
Okay,
I
Eddie,
believe.
I'm sorry,
We can all
Andrew.
evolve.
No, we cannot.
Yeah, we can evolve.
Okay, let's get to that.
Anyway.
Can we?
This
That's
ain't a
the
Katie
question.
moment either.
Some people.
Okay, but can I just ask the audience?
You're,
Can we evolve? Do
We
we
can
forgive?
evolve.
We can't evolve.
Okay,
but
We
but
do
do we
can't
forgive
be
that
enemies
turncoat?
with
I can
everybody.
forgive that turncoat.
I mean, I
forever.
forgive people from the standpoint of
Andrew is so trying to make
I
a
want to
point.
hear Angela's point.
No, I don't want to go down this point.
Okay, can I just make?
I want to hear what you guys said. We coming back.
Stay away from me.
Brother, I love you, but just know that this is payback from that Fox News interview that you did.
Go to
earlier.
hell.
Thank you.
Go to hell.
Thank you.
Oh, this is gonna be a Katie moment. Andrew,
Yeesh.
I just want to say I'm sorry. I forgive people, and I can love you from a distance, and you're welcome to vote on this ticket. But one thing I will never forget is when I was at the National Action Network conference, and her ass got up there and said that at the name of Donald Trump, every knee shall bow.
Ooh.
So I'm glad that somebody gave Omarosa a credential to come to this conference, to this convention, and for her to be taking pictures of the podcast.
For
and
some
I hope
strange reason.
I hope that she's I hope that she live streaming so she can hear this shout out. Girl, post the picture and see the comments because I will
You're
never
welcome.
forget
You're
you
welcome.
doing that. Andrew was making a great
Yeah.
point about the importance of
No,
Doug Emhoff.
no, forget it. No, but I want. No, your question was real, which was.
Doug
she
Emhoff.
doing?
No,
I don't
it's
know.
okay. Look at
I don't
guys,
know.
guys.
I know, but I
was
What time we
trying to
done here? We
I wanted
7
it.
minutes.
We're not
Okay,
saying my
listen.
gravestone what she
Listen.
did.
We
But
might
anyway.
go overtime because we want to hear you.
I
Yes.
know we're not going overtime. This is
Doug
gonna be
Emhoff.
simple. You
Doug
said
Emhoff.
whether or not black men can receive him in
Yes.
this way, and my point was, it doesn't matter if we do or don't. We receive her, and I
Oh,
think
I
that
like that.
it is enough to be for her that we will show up, show out, vote, and see her elevated to the presidency. I don't think it's a petty Negro somewhere who may harbor
She just walked over.
whatever resentment may exist as it relates to why. You know what? I think y'all are. I think
sorry,
you're
Andrew.
secretly
I am
envious of
petty.
this woman. I think you might.
Andrew,
I mean, I don't know why
I'm gonna take my
anybody.
earrings
Don't
off.
keep your
No,
earrings
no,
on.
First of all, Andrew.
As I finish shining off. Yeah. What's up?
First of all, Andrew.
Ain't nobody jealous. But this is the point.
God.
Imagine being part of the 8% of black women who helped this man ascend to power and then trying to
8%.
scurry your ass back on this side of the line. I want you part of my epigraph, okay? I want to remember
God.
forever every traitor
Yeah.
who stood out here talking about
Yeah.
who's going to bow down.
Pretty much what y'all
She
did.
literally
School.
said bow down.
Yeah.
Every,
Right.
every knee shall bow.
Right.
I think that speaking of the conversations that can be had without saying a word, even though we did say some words.
Yeah, y'all
then,
said lots
Yes.
of words.
But first it was the eyes because I was like, what is that? Who? You know, but I guess.
and of course, none of that was known to me. I was just sort of rocking with the
Because you
show.
were in the middle of making a point, so I apologize.
It's all good. I love y'all.
He's like, I'm
but
so
you
used
know,
to
the
y'all.
poor girl got her skull pulled back on, so she couldn't even defend herself.
She's fine. She's still making random cable news appearances. Nonetheless, I think that there is something about when people show up for opportunity, you can smell it on them. And she wasn't the only one. We talked about some others at the DNC as well.
Who need not be mentioned?
Who
None.
need not to be mentioned?
What's understood
But your
need not be
vest is
said.
dirty.
There it is. Next.
We had a lot of drama at the DNC because there was also this moment.
Point is, we saw Crazy Eyes on the floor, and Crazy Eyes, when I saw him, I said, Tiff, that's him. And then Tiff said,
Watch
I said-
your.
It's go time, girls.
no, you
I
didn't.
told y'all I've been ready, and Peaches and Herb came out,
No, they didn't.
and I
She didn't
walked
swing
up
at
to
nobody.
him.
Also, what about Tiff's new favorite holiday, Andrew?
Oh, my favorite
We got
hometown.
We not going to work in
my
August,
favorite
y'all.
hometown.
Yes.
My wife's hometown.
Yes,
Montgomery,
indeed.
baby.
What's up, Mont?
What's up? Let's
Let's
roll it.
remind
Let's
y'all.
roll it.
We got action, baby. He ain't finna do nothing. Arrest that.
Happy 1 year anniversary, you guys. 1 year ago on August 5th, 2023, the infamous or famous, depending on how you look at it, Montgomery boat brawl went down. We have dubbed it a holiday, August 10th, and that was a
August 10th.
revisited audio. And I have watched that. I could reenact the whole thing. Probably
Oh,
I've watched that
God.
tape about 30 times. When I'm
Oh,
frustrated, I
God.
watch that tape. It was such a moment of unity amongst us.
Collective impact.
Yes, it was a collective impact. And I really think that's how we have to move as a community. You mess with one, you mess with all. I don't care if I don't know you. If I see something going down, I'm coming over my phone ready to record. What happened? Everything okay over here? I think people have to know because you only see white people act like that when they are not outnumbered. Then it's real gully. But if they know I can't go over here and start messing with this little boy because every black mama around is going to come over here and make sure this child is okay, or I can't go over here and messing with this girl or call her out her name or harass her because I know every black person around is going to come and make sure she's okay. That is the superpower of our community. So I know a lot of jokes, a lot of memes, and all that was made around this video.
It was had.
Worthy.
Was had
it was worthy.
That.
Some of those voiceovers, I hope y'all take a little time and watch it and celebrate. Do we have to go to work on August 5th? But can we declare now, just for our viewers, so everybody knows, are we going to work on August 5th? Do we work on August? I say no. I think, especially in Donald Trump's America, ain't no way. I say August 5th.
If you're not deported.
This is I dare him to try to deport us. We built
he's trying to
this bitch
claw back birthright citizenship,
which is insane.
He's trying to take us back to Dred Scott.
Yeah. So I'm declaring here.
Yes, ma'am.
August 5th is a national holiday. You do not have to work.
Especially if you live in Montgomery.
And if you need
by the powers invested in her.
A native land pod, which is an official part of the executive branches of government.
Now.
Other things are. It's a whole agency.
He's inventing agencies and new rules.
That's true.
So
cabinet
we
member.
declare.
The Department of Native Land Pod.
Native
we just don't get invited to the meetings. They never send the notifications.
We don't
want to be.
We don't want to go.
We have our own meetings. And
but
so for our internal meeting,
we're in department.
Y'all are hereby declared August 5th is a national holiday. Happy Augustine to you.
That's right. DEI is our mandate.
If you have to call in sick, it's okay. It's still a holiday.
It happens.
Yes.
They think we're lazy anyway.
And we will record a message for you on that day. And if you do stay home on that day, send us a video. We'd like to know how you plan on spending your August 5th. And shout out to the people there. This is for real. I'm not even being silly. I want to shout out the community. Because to me, that's what it was about. And I think if y'all didn't get this message before, because we've declared it, I want people to understand when somebody comes to you, when you see one of these Kateys or Karens acting a fool, they only act like that when they are not outnumbered. And so they have to start to understand, I don't have to know you. If I see you addressing this black person in a way that seems to be putting their life at danger, I'm going to get all up in the mix. I'm going to have my phone recorded. I'm coming over to see what happened. Because you ain't talking to him, you talking to us.
Speaking of coming to see what happened, remember when Tiff had something to say about community peen?
Yo.
I don't recall.
She doesn't recall, so let's roll that clip.
That type of coming to see what happened. What? Just nasty. Just nasty.
Shots fired. Also pun intended.
Hired bartenders, it was an all girl shebang. So he's literally the only man there, and we're all like, "Why is he here? Like, what's happening?" And so she says, "Is there a place where I can go get changed?" And we're all like, "Okay." And also, these people look pretty familiar to us, but we can't quite place it. But it's DC, so everybody look familiar. We've seen them in the spots before. Okay. So the girl comes out, and she's now in a little negligee, and the guy is nude. Okay? And she proceeds to then give us a live instruction. You guys,
does she verbally talk through it?
She was verbally talking through it and performing, okay? But yes, I am so uncomfortable because none of us expected this.
Right now. I am so uncomfortable right now.
Okay, I want y'all to know, before I told this story, I gave them a preview. I said, I just want y'all to know my story is going to be about this. They said, no, tell it.
I didn't know that you was going to be like, you went to a porn concert.
Okay, I really don't appreciate telling this story after you talking about a cat and Angela talking about communion.
I thought you were saying that this was that something happened at an event and it was going to be like Heard on the Hill kind of scoop. I didn't know that we was going to be dropped into a Tubi porno. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Okay. You know what?
That was fine. I felt really G-rated after giving our
Both
stories. He's talking about church, and I'm talking about
churches and
sycophantic
the
cats.
Schizophrenic cat.
No, I said schizo, not sycophantic.
It's okay. Either way. Tiff had the nerve to be mortified after not telling us everything that was going to go down in this story.
That was a lot.
I gave y'all all the key ingredients.
I'm so proud of you.
I don't think y'all realized.
I'm just proud
we didn't
of
know
you.
how bad it was.
Not surprised, but your honesty.
Well, thank you.
Attention to detail.
That was nuts. Get it?
It was nuts. It was just friggin'
nuts.
Crazy.
Well,
but there's another, risque side of Tiff for those who don't indulge.
Tiff After Dark.
We had an episode about weed the people.
Oh,
Yeah.
weed.
And
the
since she
people.
says that marijuana is legalized in her house, we gonna run this too.
But tell us, where do you stand as we approach 420?
well, this may shock you.
So
But I am
weed or not to
pro
weed?
legalization of marijuana. Listen, if you're watching this on a Saturday,
Everywhere,
exactly.
every time,
If you're
every
watching this
day.
on this Saturday, happy 420 to you. Saturday is the day that weed smokers unite. I would say in one big puff pass communion. But before you celebrate that sticky icky, I think it's important that you know.
Before we celebrate the
okay.
sticky icky, puff pass.
I'm actually curious how this administration will handle the legalization of marijuana.
Well, he was for it in Florida, supposedly. He says he was for legalization.
And a lot of his voters, like that is an issue that is not partisan.
Yeah.
It transcends
Yeah.
every economic, socioeconomic,
But you're right.
racial,
The federal
ethnic
level
line.
is still where, even though during the Biden administration we saw some added levels of declassification, reduction of the significance, still federally you can't have commerce in federal banks.
Yeah.
It puts state governments at odds with the federal government.
For sure. And it puts
for
us as
Republican
individuals
Party.
at odds,
That's
right?
right.
We traveling and we trying to figure out what the law is in every particular place, so on and so
Right.
forth. That DNC thing went off because the laws is different.
When our friend came through, yes.
We thought we was in a state.
Yeah.
They property federal.
Yes, yeah.
And we all in trouble.
Yeah. No,
Except-
I hope that they change that, though, because for Republican Party especially, who purports to be in favor of small government and who purports to support state rights, well, this is one where you can merge the two and say, you know what, let's just make it legal. So stay tuned. We'll see.
And then what about when Tiff was the resident sports expert and I had to ask her, where did Brett Favre play?
Tiff, I love you.
I want to talk about Brett Favre. Tiff, I know you're a resident sports expert. So do you know what NFL team this man once played for?
Okay, let me just say, I was reading the Times and they did a whole article on it. So I know that he played for the Tennessee Titans.
Oh.
Right? No?
How about Green Bay?
I could be.
How about Green Bay? What we were just trying to demonstrate for you all is how easy it is for people in influential positions who cover the media to be also swayed by misinformation. That was just an exercise. Do not try this at home.
And scene.
You can Google it later. But our resident sports expert does know down on the inside. That's all you need to know.
That's all y'all need to know.
Okay, so where are we going from here, you guys? Do you guys want to
So
go to emotional
rolling
or
or
intense? Lolo,
emotional?
Lauren?
Something that we played that I had a serious challenge with was the clip of the black people talking about voting for
black
Trump.
people?
Trump or Biden?
Trump.
Why do you say that?
He's a businessman. He's going to think business. And Biden is a racist.
Who do you think has done more for the black community, Trump or Biden?
I ain't even see Biden yet. I know Trump was out here. He was out here, oh bro. He was out here. He slid for us, on God.
That's why he built the highest wall. Mike was coming over here and everything. And, we've been here for all this time and can't get a free hamburger. And they come here and get all this shit, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I say, yeah, Biden, he ain't doing shit, he ain't shit. So, but Trump, I would feel that will be the better person to get in.
Biden, everything fuck Biden.
I'll tell you what my challenge was. As a journalist, I have to remind myself we're not in a newsroom. And what I was saying is, we hadn't independently verified this footage, and Fox, is not a trusted source.
But
and
when we played it in the show, you and I had an immediate reaction. That's what I'm saying we should show.
Oh, you want to show that?
Not right now, but I'm saying that's
well, let's take a look at that now, just to remind the people.
Biden, everything fuck Biden.
I don't think we should play a lot of that.
I don't think we should play any of that.
I don't think any of. I don't know.
I wouldn't.
I didn't know
any
we
of
were.
that bullshit.
I want to play some of it. I do not want to play
let's
the whole
talk about
last
what part, because this is a whole commercial.
And we should include
ridiculous.
Because it felt like propaganda.
Yes, 100%. But then you were pushing back in real time, so I don't remember. The compromise was we played a tiny bit of it. We cut it down significantly.
I mean, I think in reflection for me, I see more now post the election the value of hearing just what felt like ludicrosity. I don't know if that's a word, I'm making it up, but it felt ludicrous. At the time, and I knew there were elements of sentiment. I just wasn't prepared to buy what I had seen in that video. And the truth is I think that probably was a sentiment, if not to that extreme, versions of it that replayed itself all throughout the cycle that culminated in obviously what we saw in the election's outcome.
I don't know if that's what we saw in the election's outcome yet. But I think for me, it wasn't that the idea that these people may not exist. It was, we don't know who these people are. It is a random collection. There is no follow-up. We don't know, are you a registered voter? Where did this footage come from? Like, who are these people? So it wasn't necessarily like, no, it's not true. We shouldn't acknowledge there are people out there. It is before we platform something, we have to, it's responsible to verify who are these people? Where did it come from? We've seen networks get caught out there in that, which I think has led to the erosion of public trust in media, where they do these panels of independent voters. And then you find out, oh, but this person is a Trump organizer. We didn't know if these people were paid, anything like that. So I would have, like the conversation we had in Atlanta, where we ask, and we're hearing from you right in our face.
Very directly,
we can ask follow-up questions. Well, how do you feel? So it wasn't the issue of, should
the
we
sentiment
talk
being shared necessarily, yeah.
It was, is this the appropriate way, when I don't know where this even came from? But I think the bigger debate that a lot of people might have, which I think you and I have had on and off air, should we be talking to those people? I've never felt like we shouldn't be. I've always said I shouldn't be. That's not a valuable way for me to spend my time. I think you have more tolerance to talk to people who may feel that way. And I can be a bit like, I don't really even, like, if you don't care enough, this whole question about what Kamala Harris ever do with black people, and you ain't even care enough to Google that shit before you ask something that dumb.
Or to ask her opponent the same question.
Precisely. So for me, I that's not my ministry to do that. It isn't. But I'm not saying that ministry shouldn't exist.
Sure.
For me, I saw that sentiment so much. And I remember in 2016 feeling very, and I've talked about it on the show, very cocky, very Hillary gone, mollywop this hoe. Like, not thinking at all that it was going to be a contest. And so this time, because remember, that episode aired when Joe Biden was still in the race. It was feeling very much like it was going in the direction of 2016 to me. It did not feel like 2020. So I'm like, here are the things that I'm hearing from the randos in my family. My god brother was talking about supporting Trump until they came after his god sister. So I was hearing this stuff, and I didn't give a damn where it came from. I was hearing that so consistently, not as much as we got closer to after Kamala was leading the ticket. Then I'm like, how are you saying black people still supporting this dude? Like, you got your sister out. And they was like, ain't my sister. So I'm like, I'm so confused about this, but I wanted to be, I didn't want to be open to the perspective so that it persuaded me, but I wanted to be sensitive enough to hear it, because I wasn't at all in 16.
I hear you.
So that was, anyway.
I think that's the question. Be curious. If you're curious about it for yourself, I want to understand what you're saying. It's a different bucket than I'm going to platform this. And I understand. That is the question.
I think we had to.
I think
maybe
it was
not that video. I do think we had to platform the perspective.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because
I think
it was real, and otherwise is to bury our head. But I think your point is obviously on that particular one.
Yeah, I'm like, we can platform the perspective.
I
mean, this
but
particular.
up to that point in this show, we had not platformed that perspective.
I understand. What's the way to platform it if it's not? Because that's not our perspective. So do we bring on a Trump supporter?
Well,
I
think an individual who would say what they have to say. Thank you.
The guy in the audience in Atlanta who was talking about what he had, like, some organization.
300 young men he comes into contact with every week.
Yes.
And basically this is what the sentiment is, and we don't feel seen, heard. That is legit. Like, to me, this guy's directly in front of us. The video, of course, again, it just felt like propaganda. It felt like they had spliced together a bunch of, and by the way, these could have been real sentiments by real people expressed.
Could have been.
The way it was packaged to me felt a little selling, which is why I was against it.
Maybe I see that different too, because I've done man or women on the street stuff.
Sure.
Like I did my do you know your black facts, or do you know your politics, and walked up to people in the same way. So I didn't see that.
But the randomness of that made me feel like there was no one you came in contact with who was black who had a different perspective than the one you put in this video.
And it was in Chicago.
Right.
Even more so. But even more so.
Not
And
to me. I don't know.
I think that reflects the difference in our backgrounds.
Yep.
You know?
But also 300,000 fewer, or maybe 500,000 fewer people, Democrats, voted in the city of Chicago.
This
than
is
they
what
did
I'm
in
trying to tell
2020.
you. Like
500,000 fewer.
Well, there were a lot less
staying home.
from 2020, period. But 2016.
No, I get it. But overall, still,
I want to see
you
the numbers
had-
from 2016 to 2024. Just
Sure.
for that contrast. But I'm telling you, there are members of Congress who I've talked to before that we aired the video here and now who are overwhelmed by the number of black people who said they were either going to stay home or voting for Trump.
Yeah, well,
All because of the migrant stuff, which was also propaganda.
And yes.
And I'm not saying that's
definitely
not people's real lived experience, but the way that it's being
packaged and sold.
force fed to us leaves
Yes.
so that there's no room for nuance.
Across social media and
Yes.
everything. But again, I just want to be crystal clear. It wasn't the sentiment. I was applying newsroom sensibility and journalist work. This isn't a newsroom, you know? But I think I always want to be very careful what I put out to people. And know if I'm ever showing you something, it's been vetted. I've made calls. I've done it. It did look like Project Veritas.
well,
you
let's
know?
check out a clip that we know wasn't made up because it happened right here on this show.
Okay.
But nowhere near the government of the United
Would
States in
they
any
have
capacity.
Osama bin Laden sitting down in the Oval Office with the president? Would
Listen,
they have had Osama bin Laden
if
in
Osama
the
bin
Oval
Laden were
Office
elected,
sitting down with the president?
Well, can I just
Osama bin
point out
Laden
a
He's a
point?
terrorist. This man is a terrorist.
Guys, this isn't that. That's not
sorry.
the point.
I
All I'm
can't-
saying
I
is
can't.
we can go off the
It
cliff.
is the point. It is
We can-
absolutely the fucking point.
Let me
go
hear
off the
Andrew. Let me hear what you
cliff.
have to say, Andrew.
You can go
I'm
off
not
the
off a
cliff,
cliff.
and never,
The country's
ever,
off a
ever
cliff.
get power again. You can.
That's where we are.
No, that isn't where we are because we
Andrew,
haven't
it
begun
very well
to
could
fight.
be. He said
So
this was the last election.
But Angela, you are smart. However, your wisdom does not supplant that of all of the American people who went out and voted. And unfortunately, I've had to subject myself to the same damn thing. You don't think I'm hurt? I felt awful. I felt humiliated.
questioning your pain,
No.
brother.
I'm going to finish my point.
I guess what we've known each other a long time. I mean, y'all, this woman dated my very best friend since
we
the end of
telling
middle
it.
school.
Oh,
No,
okay.
listen. I mean,
You said since middle school.
I mean, no, my best friend since that
your
point,
your
right?
best friend.
So,
It was in law school.
you know, and after law school, and times in between. Nonetheless, all I'm simply saying is I've had a moderating, mediating role. Okay, friend, whatever. We still living. We still breathing. There's always opportunity. I
there's
maintain.
not.
Listen, the point being,
Let the church say
our
amen.
disagreements don't equal the end of
Ever.
a friendship, a relationship, a love, a deep care.
Siblingship.
And I don't mean just Anthony, between Angela and myself. I mean that for Tiffany and any other disagreements that occur on this platform. I think what surprises me about people's reaction to our disagreements is that I think they conclude that it's like, you know how, remember those bands when we were younger and we were like, they were such great music. I was a super fan. And then all of a sudden we hear they broke up.
Yeah.
And nobody ever knows why they broke up because their stuff didn't necessarily play out publicly. Well, we're not those bands and you're not going to turn on the TV and there's a breakup, in quite that way. But people feel uncomfortable.
Quite that way?
Well, no, people feel uncomfortable about our disagreements to the point where I've heard people say, look, I just fast forward through it. Or I turn it off and I'll pick up the next episode or, something like that. And I love your care, but I do think that people need to be able to see disagreements happen. They also need to see reconciliation happen.
Yes.
Disagreements don't mean finality to anything until someone says it's final. And even then, there's room for negotiation if they still draw breath, is my belief.
Yeah.
But I think there is discomfort about it. The reason why I don't feel complete discomfort, one, what you may not have the benefit of looking at it is the personal conflict that exists on any regular day in and out of it, right? That's another reason why I'm skeptical when people say, well, I would have done such and such and such in that situation.
that?
Because your I would have done is absent our experiences
That's right.
up to this point. So your I would have done will look different than mine because we don't share the same experience to this moment. But that it's okay for that to happen. And it's okay for it to happen out loud and for us to be able to reconcile it. But I think that reconciliation also really should be out loud just as the conflict is.
Yeah. I think the thing that's funny to me about like our fights is there's always this, I say to people, like even outside, they're like, yeah, that Andrew, man, like, I can say this about Andrew. I don't know you, ho. Like, what are you talking about? So I'll be like, just so we're clear,
right.
Andrew's not wrong. Andrew is like the eternal diplomat. He is always going to find some good in some person somewhere somehow. Now, every now and then, it's somebody that crossed him.
Yeah, but even the eternal diplomat piece, it's not a, I'm not trying to fit my perspective to a role. It is what I feel.
That's what I'm not. Let me be clear.
No.
I'm not
but for
saying
everybody's
that.
benefit, it's not
I'm
that
not
I'm
saying that he's trying to fit a role. I'm saying this is actually
or whatever. It is
it's
a reflection of what I am.
Genuine thought.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's performative at all. I'm just saying that Andrew is, I said this on a show, Andrew is a New Testament Christian. I am very Old Testament, right? Until we talk about turning the other cheek. I'll turn another cheek once and then you get slapped back.
Yeah.
So it's just, and I will slap you harder for Andrew and Tiff. That's the other thing. So it's like, I don't mind people being involved in those parts of our conversations or even the conflict or even picking sides. But when you go low on one of these two, I'm going lower. I promise you this platform can meet your backside. So no, but I will just say, I think the thing that I appreciate about our conflict, even when y'all let me yell, there was a show we did where Tiff was like, but why are you yelling? I was like, because I'm not heard or whatever I said. I'm screaming. And it is, you learn in therapy, like some of these things go back to like childhood. You ain't feel heard somewhere. And I'm still clearly working through 6th grade wound child.
But you're not the only one. What I know about people and I know about myself is oftentimes when we are in argument, the thing that is driving and fueling what it feels like the passion or the real energy there sometimes isn't the thing we're talking about. Sometimes it's something else. And all of that, at least for me, I have allowance for to a point, as we all have things to a point. But I think in our community particularly, we have to be able to show that disagreement doesn't mean finality and it doesn't mean the end.
Do you know the only other thing I want to say about this is this Joe Biden having Donald Trump in the White House thing?
God.
I still feel strongly about that because here's the only reason why, and it's maybe it's not the only reason, here's the biggest reason why. We literally were telling people the entire cycle, and I believe this still, that democracy was at stake.
Agreed.
And you can't say that the entity or the person and all of their backing that is behind this is now safe. And that is what, like, it's almost like he was welcoming him into America's home, one that taxpayers pay for and all that. You still may disagree.
I do.
I get it. But I'll just say, like, I was mad at him because I felt like, and so often we are forced to defend Joe Biden when Joe Biden, I don't feel like has always protected us, or even like even with pardons and like all these things like the Cash for Kids guy and all that, like all of that, and we're forced to defend you when you shouldn't be defended. And I'm just beyond it, and I think I've been beyond it for probably about 4 years. But I can't anyway.
So we still disagree, but that's the nature of it. Keep tuning in.
Tiff, do you still disagree?
With him inviting him in the White House? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, do we have to build consensus again on the different
No, I was just curious.
She just wanted to know if there's been evolution.
We have evolved to this next clip.
He's over it. Let's roll this clip from Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Come on.
You can walk into a room like this where people cheer when you step onto the stage, and you might think for a second that you're kind of special. Then you go home and your kids remind you very quickly you're actually not that big of a deal. So my kids keep me humble. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble.
Wow. I want to say some bad words.
I really do, Tiff. And I think it's crazy because when I watched that the first time, I wasn't emotional. I was just angry. Now, like knowing my own IVF journey and what I've been through.
Yes.
And to be childless and it's not by choice. It's just mean. It's really mean. And I just wish that when they go through this journey of what it means to birth people, in this country, how much of a struggle it is, how much of a blind eye they turn to Black maternal health or maternal health, period. The blind eye they turn to the kids. Tiff, you laid out all the data. Andrew, you laid out the data, the personal experience, you and Tiff's own connection as children to this issue. We have got to have a more holistic, nonpartisan approach to policy making for children and people who desire to have children. And you should not shame people who did not, who chose not, or who cannot have kids. I feel the same.
Cruelty was the point.
Cruelty is the point.
Cruelty was the point. And they're just cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of ways that if we could take a step back. My mom always talks about perspective taking and that being the greatest skill we can learn in life. I think our politics would be more friendly. Our workplaces would be more friendly. Places of higher learning would be if we only took a step out of our shoes and into the shoes of others.
Problem is the majority that exists, they have the freedom never to have to look at it from another perspective. When your decision's final, when your decision is the one that will rule the day every time, why do I have to take a moment to hear where you come from? I do think that is an incredibly helpful skill. And it's one that we've all had to deepen into, not just develop, but really deepen into in professional work environments to have our way. Our listeners would relate to that. They know what it means to go into a room that is opposed, and not just opposed, don't care enough to be opposed, but they care enough that their perspective still will rule the day. So how do we communicate to a people to stop you where you are, say, open your eyes and just see me clearly for a moment? And maybe if you see me and hear me clearly for a moment, you can understand the passion I bring to why that thing is so important. And if they care about you at a personal level, maybe you reach them. But I don't have a belief that Donald Trump, his crew, and the like are ever going to take a pause and say, I wonder how that how that sits with them if we do that. But I've never had that hope for them. So it doesn't happen now. Okay, next moment. The only thought I had as I walked was, thank you, Jesus, there are no cameras. No one will ever see me this way. They can describe it, but my kids won't ever see these chains. That was the biggest source of embarrassment for me, because I remember back to that story of me telling you all that I never wanted to make my mom cry for me getting in trouble. That's all I could think of, was her seeing me. So they weren't there, and we go through the proceedings, and the judge says this is the United States of America versus Andrew Gillum. I wish I hadn't felt so emotional and expressive about it, but that was real.
Why?
For me. Well, it's just, you always, in retrospect, I think sometimes are always like, could I have said that and just said it and not have felt like I came apart? But
I think it's so good you did that. Like, I honestly, Andrew and Tim, I want to hear what you said, because this is the production guru among us. I think it would be so dope for Andrew to have a show with folks who are like recovering politicians or who lost a race that they shouldn't have or whatever, where they are like, okay, now what do I do? And like the grief that hits you after the election, because the voters are all like, I don't know what I'm going to do now that you lost. You like, bitch, what about me? What you think? So I think it would be such a good conversation with him and others who have gone through that experience. I'm glad, not that you came apart, but I'm glad that you were vulnerable enough to open up.
Yeah. No, it was what it was.
If you don't want him to do that, I want him to do that show.
Yeah, I think what would be interesting is, even if it was somebody who lost the race and then later went on to win a race, because it's about, what you did after defeat. So it doesn't have to be, people who aren't currently in public office. They might still be in public office.
Yeah.
I think that's a good show.
I think the journey for all of us matters.
Mm-hmm. After defeat.
Which can apply to anybody in any sector.
Yeah.
Right?
So good.
Ours just happens to be a lot more public when you lose. The only thing I would reflect on is the number of people who still, tell me how hurt and, mad or sad or disappointed. Because I always think, like, do you really think that you are more that than I am?
They might.
They may think
They may think that, yeah.
They may think
but
that.
you were going through
But
it.
the cost has been borne largely by my household and the people who I see and care the most about. So that being said,
you know
we
what
all
I
still
thought
have
about?
to be in the fight.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is, I hope I don't be down a rabbit hole, but just one thing I thought about. They, after losing, I still say that. I know I probably sound like a Trumper. I don't really care. I don't think Andrew really lost if they would have counted all the ballots. But after losing, they then went on to indict you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would have happened if you were in the governor's mansion?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the indictment would have come sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I think.
It was inevitable.
I think they were out to
They
eat me,
couldn't
period.
wait to humiliate. Like they would have.
All the layers of it.
Mm-hmm.
All the layers.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Oh, I thought it.
We talked about that a
million
little bit.
times.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry.
No,
not on the podcast.
No,
I
just
don't remember
different
when. It was like a
ways.
random, and it wasn't a long conversation. But I remember telling you, because somebody left a comment on YouTube. It was kind of mean, but I appreciate what they were trying to say. It was after you guys argued about the Joe Biden welcome, and Andrew's point was, I don't want to say what your point was, but you at some point in that conversation made the point, like, we pick up and we go on. And somebody made a comment and said, not Andrew telling us to pick up and go on when he still hasn't gotten back out there to help save us from this maniac in Florida.
They're like, it's your fault.
Right.
You fix it.
And there are so many comments like that, like, you out here doing podcasts? Like, you see what's going on? And Obama tweeted something during the Trump administration, and I will paraphrase the response, but he tweeted some random thing like, oh, today is like MLK Day. Michelle and I are celebrating. And somebody responded and said, Ninja, help.
I
think people feel
get
that way.
and I've shared with you privately and otherwise that I get that people. I understand it to be sincere, but we're all very selfish in our own ways, and I keep. When I have to compare whatever time I'm taking for my own repair work to the fact that I've been elected for more time that I've been on this earth, than the total time I've been on this earth, that it has subtracted.
Tiff
so
is so
many
damn
ways.
shallow today.
That's so rude.
You're making
I'm
such
sorry.
a good point.
No.
And
I'm
she
so
said,
sorry.
"You old."
I'm old.
I can't believe you've been elected for more time
Since he
than
was
not.
20.
Well, but, I mean, if I went back to
Since he was 20.
That's to public, but I mean,
That's a long time.
To be in service for as long as I don't have a
Since
memory
high school
outside of
student
service
government.
in that way.
Yeah.
Since third grade.
Oh, third grade. Excuse me.
No, I mean,
That's
I'm
a
just
long
mean when
time,
you
though,
think
but,
about
like,
it,
in leadership,
what
running for
people
office.
say to you, which
Literally
is
prepared
you're the leader.
for
You
it.
have to be out there. You have to set the example. You have to do this. You have to do that. Those lessons have been imbued in me from they're almost the only ones that I can really have real memory of, and so. I get the sincerity of you might be contributing this way. Most don't even say that. You may be contributing because you're lifting up the issues that we should be thinking about, but rather you're not sacrificing yourself, laid right bare on the front line.
They say, Andrew, Ninja, help.
Yeah,
exactly.
But if you're not that, then you're not contributing. I rebuke it, but I understand it.
Do you feel after hearing that so many times, not just in YouTube comments or on Instagram comments, which I know you mostly ignore social media, but do you feel after now being back in the public eye on a bigger scale again with the podcast, do you feel compelled at all? Like, do you feel pulled back into public service?
No, not in that way. I don't. If I feel pulled in any way, it's about the things that are happening and the way in which it's showing up for the people I care about. But I don't, my default position is not now to let me go figure out what office I can hold that will best impact this. That isn't the default anymore. And I don't know that it ever will be, but should it ever become it, I believe that in my faith tradition that God is preparing me for the whatever.
I want to be
ready. Well, I whatever it is, know that I'll be a lot more complete and full of person.
Yeah.
And doing whatever that thing is.
I love it.
I'm proud of you, brother.
Proud of y'all.
Before we even jump into the substance of the podcast, let's roll that clip.
Bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, butch body.
A what now? Sway. A what now?
Sway the wingman!
Bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, butch body.
What now?
Bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. I'm just curious.
Hey.
Hey.
That's what we're up against these days. We're up against a whole lot of beach blonde, bad built.
Don't you about to say it?
I know. Butch body.
We want to replace one of those B words, but we keep stopping ourselves. So apologies.
Angela,
It just rolls off the tongue.
Can you please?
Welcome.
Okay, y'all.
That's
So we have I'm anticipating a very busy year. Y'all know we've been drinking out of fire hoses just trying to keep up with these cabinet picks. And I think it's going to be a busy year, not just for politics on the federal level, but also state and local.
Yeah.
There's going to be some racial justice stuff. We're fighting on every side. We've seen corporations roll back DEI efforts, all of that.
Yeah.
So as we look ahead, what roles shall we play in creating safe space, but also challenging what's ahead? What do we think?
I think one thing that I've been struggling with and just thinking about, because it's not always a struggle, I feel like a broken record when I say trying to cover this man is like trying to catch confetti. Yeah, like you can get so distracted in that that you lose the bigger picture. So I know personally, I would like us to talk about overarching themes, not get so caught up in the chaos of this administration, because there's going to be a ton of it, you know, and by the time that this podcast airs, 10 things have happened, you know, and that's intentional. Like they want to flood the news cycle with nonsense. So that is what people end up talking about. You chase this around, and then while you're looking over here, this thing has happened. While you're looking at Jim Comey being fired, mandatory minimums are brought back, you know? And so I think, one, I want to focus on giving our people something to believe in. What does democracy look like to you? Another thing I want to focus on is big laws that are potentially changing. Like, how are we protecting laws? And then protecting our person. And I think a lot of that comes from our physical, mental person, but also from a policy perspective that comes, to your point, from the state and local level. And you can actually impact policy at the state and local level a lot easier than you can at the federal level. So paying attention to what's below the fold, the things that the echo chambers are not discussing, informing people as much as opining, you know, like making sure people walk away armed with, oh, I understand this issue better, which encourages action. It encourages participation. And then opening up the space more to hear from people more. We had a good idea the other day. What was it? Oh, yes, I would like us to see if I'm previewing something we're not ready for, we'll cut it out. But a town hall with people who did not vote. Yes. Like vetted people. We know y'all didn't vote, and we want to hear straight up from you. How do you feel about democracy? What would it take for you to participate? I would really love that, and that might be an ongoing series. I think you said.
That's.
He said battleground is different from the South. I love that.
Where you left off was going to be like the thing that I think this year hopefully affords us, the deepening into like what's real and what isn't. I'll use, for example, a lot of the news media has been talking about people's reactions to the really unfortunate murder that occurred in New York with the corporate healthcare CEO. And the fact that on TikTok and all these other platforms, people are raising money. They're saying, creating alibis. He couldn't have done it. He was with me. We were on a date, or, whatever. And they're talking about how just, sinister this feels and sounds, and this and that and third. And I keep thinking, this is how the chasm starts. Like, you're all the way over here on the sanctimonious. Regular folks are here, and I'm not ascribing regular folks being at the opposite perspective, but the fact is the chasms have to like shrink in until they no longer exist. And it's important to me that happen amongst our community more than anything. And it isn't for any political outcome that I'm concerned about. It's because I want to recognize who I'm in community with. I want to, and if I say we're in community together, I want that to be true, not just for me, but to be true for you.
Yes. I
can't claim you when you disagree with everything that I believe in and stand for, and I the same, with you. So the deepening into what is driving, where is the motivation? Is it about a check, or is it about respect? Is it about, what does that look like? Also, while I completely receive the point that this administration is going to be a bunch of stuff, just events being mistaken for progress. I know there's going to be a lot of that happening, but then on the real, there's going to be a lot of stuff. It's hard to warn people about what they're going to miss. Right? Like, oh, I have this today and it's going to be taken from you, because most of us, our minds won't be wrapped around the fact that it can really be taken from us. But ask women and men who understand the battle around reproductive health. I'm afraid about what will be stripped from us that will be taken, and it won't be done in the bright lights of the camera, but in the midnight hours. And when people aren't paying attention, that will reap real havoc on our community. So our ability to watch, see, and guardrail on some of those things. And then I think lastly, for me, hopefully this year is going to be about us sort of having more of our interpersonal show up. You said, tending to ourselves, tending to the health, the mental well-being, health and care. I think we talked about that throughout this year. I hope we do a little bit more diving deeper into that to help people feel equipped with some tools on how to navigate this life we're living right now interpersonally. I need it, and I know that if that's true, that's probably true for someone else too.
I love that. I think the thing that I really am hoping for is more connection with our audience and people who will one day become audience, but they feel like NLP fam. I love, Tiff, you bringing up the idea around the town halls. I want to do that so bad. I do want to do Battleground, but there are more folks than just Battleground, because as we talked about, it's not just our work that matters, it's our whole being. And so really creating space for that. I also, I'm looking forward to a lot more laughs with y'all. Yeah. We have a good time on the show, whether it's talking about a beef or Tiff's sports expertise, which reminds me,
You're
Tiff,
welcome.
Yes, thank you. On that, who do you have for the Super Bowl?
Oh, man. Where do I even begin?
Must we? Yeah. Nope, you don't have to begin.
There are so many. I like what I see this season so far. I have to tell you guys. Yeah, there's been a lot of, right? There's been a lot of good performance out there. A lot of good athleticism. A lot of good So I'm gonna say this year I got the Falcons in the Super Bowl.
Is that a bias for Atlanta? I like it.
Well, because Will is a minority owner of the Falcons, shout out to Will Packer.
She doesn't have a conflict there or anything.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I got Kendrick.
I'm on definitely that team.
I'd like to change my answer. I have Kendrick.
I'm on that team.
So I do want to just shout out. There have been a lot of great things that happened this year. One of my favorites is the Kendrick Lamar album. After the beef, there was a whole album, and him putting on all the West Coast rappers and making sure that they got their shine. I have bumped the album nonstop consistently. And I will also just say that this podcast in so many ways saved my life. And it matters to me that folks feel connected to us, whether they agree or disagree, that they have a space to call home every single week. And so I'm grateful for you all for taking this journey and ride. And I'm looking forward to the roller coaster that will be 2025.
Blessed Lord.
For its projects, for its housing developments, for its climate changing, and for maybe a lot of good stuff that comes out of this. Sometimes Black folks organize the best in terror. So
come on.
We've been in a rainy season, so I need some sunshine this coming year on every level. Yeah. On every level.
I love it.
Agreed.
Well, welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home,
everybody.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. As always, we want to remind you to leave us a review and subscribe to Native Land Pod. We're available on all platforms and YouTube, and you can follow us on social media. We are Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, and Andrew Gillum. Happy New Year. There are 670 days until the midterm elections.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rye, Gillum, and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth. Even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Welcome home, y'all.
What's up, sis? Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.